Hi guys, welcome back to the Big Sew Along. I'm Ginny and today we are in fact doing a sew along for the Sewing Workshop's origami skirt, which is something I have wanted to do for a really long time and I'm super excited about it. It is a little bit of a longer sew along, so I'm going to try to be quick before that. But I do have a couple of things to tell you about. First of all, last week I was talking to you guys about Simplicity 8603. I'll put some pictures right here. I was telling you about the two versions I made of this, and I was telling you that my favorite version was this black and white striped one. This fabric is from Latoff Fabrics. It's a cotton spandex jersey, and somehow last week I accidentally deleted the pictures after I did my video. So this is the pictures. These are the pictures, just so you can see what that looks like. We're having a bit of an ice storm today, so it's pretty cold, and now my heater's gonna keep going on. So I will just try to talk louder. Okay, the other thing is we were talking about serger thread last week, and I don't want to take the time to go through all the comments right now, just because I don't want this to get overly long. But if you're interested, there were a lot of comments from other people about their how they manage their serger thread and colors and that kind of thing. So I will leave a link to that video down below so you guys can check those messages out. I've also had a couple of people ask me about Dolly. She is a vintage dress form that a friend of mine gave me. My friend that gave it to me is not a sewer. She had this in her house as a piece of decor, and she was moving. She wanted to get rid of it. I didn't know if I would want it, but once I got it here, once I saw it, then I knew I wanted it. Anyways, she's vintage. She does actually expand and contract a fair amount. I honestly have no idea where you can get one. I've seen a few vintage ones, but she's in pretty good condition, and that I don't see very often. Antique stores, or I think that she got it at one of those big like antique markets someplace. Anyways, all right, so that is it for a little bit of a chat. Let's go to this sew along, and then I will come back and talk to you a little more about it. Okay guys, we're going to start with the right leg, which looks like this, almost a rectangle. We're going to have to change a couple of things if you are not making the size 8. If you're making the size 8, then you can just use the lines and markings that are on here. If you're making any other size, you are going to want to remark your side hem fold line, which is this line right here for size 8. If you're making any other size, you want this to be 2 3/8 inches from your cut edge. So I am making the size 16, and my line is 2 3/8 inches, and I drew it all the way down. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. I did it in a highlighter. The next thing is your center zip for any size. The center zip for the size 8 is right here. If you're making any other size, you want that to be 1.5 inches away from your cut edge. Mine is right here, again in a highlighter, and it ends exactly where the other one ends. Just parallel 1.5 inches from your cut edge. The other thing you have to move is your top stitch line. This is the top stitch line for the size 8. If you're making any other size, you're going to want to move that. The squared off end of that is 3 3/4 inch away from your cut edge, and then you're just going to make these two side lines the same length as this, and I actually just extended mine and then put a separate line there. Okay, then everything else should be fine. If you are lengthening or shortening this piece, you're just going to cut right here at the lengthen shorten line and do your regular lengthen shorten as usual. I'm going to go ahead and do this on mine. Mine is 2 inches, so I'm shortening it. So I'm just going to cut this open and move it down 2 inches. Okay, now that I have this shortened, I've turned it the other way around. This is the back seam right here, and I'm going to measure from point C, which is right here, to point D, which is right here. Can you see that? Yeah, okay. D to C, marking dot, measuring from dot to dot. And I cut size 16 on this. I'm going to measure that dot down to the size 16 dot down here. Actually, the 14 dot down here because I tapered mine in. And mine comes in at 34 and 5/8 inches. So I'm going to mark that down, 34 and 5/8 inches. That measurement from D, from the D dot to your C dot, needs to measure the same as from E to M on your left leg piece. So first thing I'm going to do is measure mine from E to M, and on this one I use the size 16. Mine is 36 inches. My other piece measured 34 and 5/8 inches. So here's the thing. In order to shorten this, you're going to want to cut along this line, and we're going to move this piece. We're going to move it this way, or we're going to move it this way to make it longer. Which is a little confusing, but it makes sense. The other thing is, if you're making it longer, so if you're making it longer, you cut this open and spread these two pieces apart, and I'll show you in just a minute. You would also need to cut a separate line in sort of an arc shape from E to G and cut that open too, because you're going to spread that open. It's pretty clear on these directions here how to do that. I'm going to make mine shorter, so I don't need to do the E to G thing. I just need to cut this and spread it. So let's do that. Okay, so you remember when I measured this before I cut it, this edge was 36 inches. The long edge, the one that needs to match on my other pant, is 34 and 5/8 inches. So that's an inch and 3/8 difference. So I'm going to make a mark here at an inch and 3/8. That in the middle doesn't really match, but that's okay. So we're going to do this. We're going to move this. I'm not going to worry about this end right now. We're going to move this edge right here over our 1 3/8 inches and put it down in a straight line all the way down. And I am going to lightly tape that in place because I do not know yet if that is going to be right. Okay, so now it looks like that. And you can see that I have like a wonky edge here. We're going to have to fill that in. Again, I am just going to lightly tape this in place in case it needs to change. Then I'm going to take my curvy ruler. Actually, I think I'm going to take a straight edge and just do this. Like this. Straight up. If it looks too straight, I can always make it a little bit curved in a little bit. Right? Okay, so now we're going to remeasure this along this line. I'm going to measure from E up to, what is this again? Oh, M. And you're going to measure roughly what your 5/8 inch seam allowance would be. That's how we measured it on the other one. This one is 35 and a half inches. I need this to be 34 5/8 inches. So I'm going to have to change this again. So I am going to measure this. So if I had just done 2 inches originally, it would have been not enough, but only by about 3/8 of an inch, I think. Okay, so I'm going to remove this paper here. Just for a minute. We're going to move this over again. All right, and that time I have it. Let's see, that was 4th time. So I'm actually going to go ahead and cut this out just like this. But before I do that, I want to look at this and see. So I wanted to shorten this by 2 inches, and this distance here that I shortened this piece is actually exactly 4 inches. So if you're looking at percentages, if you're thinking about shortening it an inch, try moving this over 2 inches in the first place, and just testing it, because I feel like it's sort of a percentage thing. I feel like if you move this twice as far as the length on your other piece, you will probably come up pretty close to the measurement you want. But of course, you're going to have to test it anyways. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out just like this, and I'm going to cut my fabric out, and then we'll get started. Okay, I have my pattern cut out and ready to go, but I forgot to say one other thing. We need to, this notch down here at the bottom, we need to transfer over here, but you do not want to just draw it straight across from this edge. This notch is 13 7/8 of an inch away from the bottom. So this notch needs to be 13 7/8 of an inch, and I just moved it exactly like this, right along the edge, and 13 7/8 is right here. You can see it's considerably off, and you're going to need this notch, so be sure that you move that 13 7/8 inches above the hem. And it should be 13 7/8 inches above the hem for everybody. Okay, this is the right leg, and we're going to start with this. We're going to start first, let me say, I'm going to move my pattern away, and you guys will see. I have cut all of my pieces with my fabric right side up and my pattern piece right side up. And then on the back side of my fabric, I have made notes. I have marked all of the points with the letters A, D, C, B, and also on the other leg, on the left leg. It's really important that you have those letters on there. I've also made a big mark on here, so I'm sure that I know this is the wrong side. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our darts, which are up here. They're just standard darts. This edge right here with these markings on it, this is the front of your skirt. This side over here is the back. Once you make these darts, you're going to press this one towards the front and this one towards the back. I am not going to put darts in mine. The waist on mine is a little bit snug. I'm going to leave the darts out, and I will probably put a tiny bit of elastic in the back of the waistband to compensate for that. And also I have made my waistband longer to accommodate for that. Meanwhile, go ahead and put your darts in. Now we're going to move on to the left leg, which looks like this. And you have 2 curves down here at the bottom. This one right here is the right curve. This one over here with the clips in it is the left curve. We are going to put our facing on the right curve. So we're going to move this away. And again, you will see on the back of my pattern piece, I have clearly marked all of my points. This is going to go right here like this, and we're just going to match up those points. That should match up with that point on the other side, and this one matches up with this point on the other side. We're going to go ahead and stitch this on with our 5/8 inch seam allowance, and then we're going to trim it and press it. We're going to understitch it and then press it to the back. Okay, so that is the right leg curve finished. And I didn't say this before, but I went ahead and finished the outer edge of this facing piece. And that's it. You're not going to sew it down or anything right now. You're just going to press it to the back. There may be a point where she instructs us to finish this later, but I don't see it, so I just finished mine now. Now, so this is the right leg curve. This over here is the left leg curve, the one with a more weird shaped curve. I have gone ahead and stay stitched this. You can see my dots are G and H on this side, and I have stay stitched between those two dots and have clipped down to my stay stitching. The next thing I'm going to do is press this edge over, and this is the hem, I think, or whatever. I'm not really sure what piece this is, but this long edge we're going to press under. This is point K through point H. We're going to press that over 2 inches, and it should match up pretty much like this at the top, right here. And then we're going to press this edge under a 1/2 inch. So you don't really need to finish this edge. We're going to press that under a 1/2 inch. Okay, so this is what our pant leg looks like so far. That's our hem that we just pressed under. You can see it's pressed under a 1/2 inch here. Okay, now the magic is going to happen. Okay, this right here, you will see under this flap, we have marks J through K. And down here at this curve, we have marks H and G. And we are going to match those up, right sides together. So, where's my mark? J goes to H. And you're going to pin it right along this fold line here. Right along that hemline that we just pressed. H and J go together right there. Make sure I get those right on each other. So H matches up to J right there. And then you're going to kind of straighten this piece out, this curve. This is the left leg curve. And you're going to match G to K right here. Okay, like that. Does that make sense? There's another dot right here that matches up to another dot on the other side. So essentially this line of stay stitching that we put on the leg opening should fall right in line with this crease that we made when we did this fold. So now I am going to pin mine down, and then we're just going to go ahead and sew that down between points K and points J. Okay, so now you should have something that looks like this. My opening. I hope you can see that. I did make a little mistake in saying that we were going to stitch this down, this piece down like this. This hem piece, I had to open it. It needs to be laying closed, flat like that. So now with this facing up like this, we're going to take this thing called the clip cover. And I've already pressed mine under. It's a 1/4 inch on one long side and both of the short sides. I have a lot of threads on here. Okay, once we have all this pressed down, we are going to, you can see our little clips right here. We are going to stitch this down right here. And we're going to stitch it down to our seam allowance only. So get this flap out of the way. want to stitch it along this edge, kind of close to that seam line there, just making sure that you're only catching the seam allowance. So I'll show you what this looks like in 1 second. Make sure that you're covering all of your clips there too. So like that, and on that side, whoops, I just pulled my pin out. On that side it looks like that. So my seam is right there and I'm just outside of that. Okay, so that's stitched down. I'm not gonna lie, that is not looking all that keen, honestly, but it will work. Okay, so now I'm gonna we need to serge this edge off. So I'm gonna press that, fold that other flap to the back. And you may or may not have this issue. You can see mine's really uneven, so I'm just gonna trim this down so it's all about the same length. And I'm gonna serge that. And once I have that serged, I'm gonna sew this down along this edge, and I'm just gonna sew it to this piece right here. Okay, that's that little piece serged off. And just to be clear, what I'm gonna do here is open out this hem facing like this, and I'm gonna stitch this edge down just to this hem facing. So right along here. Okay, so that's that stitched down. That's that stitching that we just did. Now when you turn this right side out, remember this is the leg opening and you still have this hem, loose hem here. Okay, so we're going to turn this right side out and you should have something that looks like that. Now on this section, right here, just along the seam, we're going to do a little edge stitching right here. And then I'm going to do mine from the wrong side. You can do it from any side you want. I'm going to do your edge stitching here. Then we're going to turn it inside out again. And you're going to top stitch this, or edge stitch this hem facing down all the way around. Starting here and going all the way around the leg. Once we have that all stitched in place, we look something like this. If you go up here, you'll see this is the piece we have with our hem facing. Over here on this side, you'll see something that looks like this. And this is I've already done my clip, but you'll see in just a minute. On the back side, this is point L right here. And this over here in this corner, I think is M. So point L, this is where our zipper is going to go. You're going to do, this is the snip that I've made afterwards, so it looks like this. You should have a mark here where you're going to snip it. I have put stay stitching in here from here to here, just to keep that from opening up too much. I am also, she does not instruct you to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway because this piece is on the bias. And we're going to put a zipper in here, so I really want this to be more stable. It would not hurt to do just stay stitching all the way up here, but I am going to put a piece of fusible interfacing on here, and I'm going to put it right to the edge, just past where my snip is, right along my seam allowance, and straight up to the top edge. And I want to be sure that I'm putting this at the 5/8 mark where I'm going to actually stitch in a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you have fusible stay tape, that would also work. I just don't have any in black, so I'm going to use what's that called? Interfacing. Okay, on the right leg we have something that looks like this. This is the top, this is the bottom. On this one we are going to fold this front edge over 2 inches, and that's points A to point B. We're going to fold that 2 inches over to the wrong side and give it a press. Okay, so I have put my fusible interfacing along that seam line, and I have clipped my clip and pressed this under 5/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to put my zipper under this side, and I'm going to match this stop up with the bottom right there. And I'm going to match my teeth as close to this edge as I can get. And then I'm going to go to my sewing machine and just baste that down. Okay, so there's our zipper basted onto the left leg. And now we're going to take our right leg. There's our right leg with the folded over hem piece here. We're going to open this out this way, leaving this hem facing. And you'll see this is our mark right here for the center of our zipper. That is going to get placed directly over the center of our zipper. Just exactly like that. And we're going to pin it into the zipper tape right here. Just make sure you're centered all the way up. Okay, once you have that pinned in place, you're just going to go back to your sewing machine and stitch that down. Okay, so there is my zipper sewn into the right side. I did actually pin this on this side, but really you probably want to pin it and stitch it on this side so you can see what you're doing. Either way, it doesn't matter as long as you get it in there. Now we're going to work on our zipper guard, which is this piece. I have folded it in half, right sides together, and stitched the lower end with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And we're just going to turn that right side out. All right, we're going to match this up, raw edge to this raw edge of this seam allowance. This top edge should match with the top edge of your skirt right there. And we're going to pin it down like that. I'm going to pin it just in a couple of places. And it's going to come down longer than your zipper. Now once we get that in there, we're going to flip it over and you can see exactly where it's supposed to be. We can repin it so it sits there like this, and we can stitch it from the right side just along the basting stitches that we had before. You can see where those are. Okay, once we get that sewn in there, we're going to go back to the wrong side and we're going to finish this raw edge. We're going to finish the raw edge of our seam allowance from the pant along with the raw edge of our zipper guard. Okay, so first let me just show you what that looks like. That is the what's it called, the zipper guard. And I have a little glue on here from my zipper. All right, anyways, and this is the edge that I serged along with the seam allowance. It's pretty tight getting it in there. You can see that that actually doesn't look that great. I think in the future I would finish that first and then apply the zipper guard. The other thing is, when I put my zipper in from the wrong side, I somehow managed to move my zipper a little bit and it didn't match up here anymore, so I had to move it down about almost 3/4 of an inch. And so I just redid that. But anyways, it doesn't, just sew your zipper from the right side and you won't probably have that problem. But this, you can see this waistband is at a bit of an angle here, so it's also a little bit tricky. So just be aware of that. Okay, next up, we are going to sew our right leg and our left leg together below the zipper. So flip this over. We're going to put these right sides together. We are going to match this up, and actually I think I'm going to do it from this side, because on the left leg here you have this seam that looks like that, and you want to be sure that that gets caught in here properly. Keep your zipper guard, this thing, out of the way. Okay, you guys can see here on the right hand side, I sewed my zipper down too far by about 1 inch. You're going to want to stop sewing at the bottom of your zipper. Not at the bottom of the zipper tape, but back here at the zipper stop. Okay, because when we put these right sides together, this needs to be able to sit underneath that zipper. I hope that's clear. All right, so now I'm gonna pin this together. I'm gonna go all the way down. And on this, you're gonna wanna open up this hem facing on your left side and match it up with the bottom of the right side. We are gonna go ahead and sew that seam, and then we're going to finish that edge all the way down. And then you're gonna go back in and repress that crease from the front. Okay, that is that long seam sewn all the way down, and I did finish it all the way up here to the edge of, that was a raw edge on the, it was at the right side of my zipper. So I finished that all the way down. Now, we're gonna fold this back out of the way. And this is the front. I have repressed it, but it's kind of hard to see what's going on here. So I've repressed that, and now we are going to top stitch this down. An inch and a half away from this folded edge. So, inch and a half, right there, all the way down. Okay, so I have that sewn down all the way down. And the next thing we need to do is this little top stitching detail at the bottom of our zip. The marks for that are inside here, so that you probably don't even need to mark those on the original cutting portion, because you're going to have to remark them on the outside of your zipper or back here on your zipper guard. In either case, I'm going to do mine from the top. I have remarked mine. In either case, just be careful that you're not hitting your zipper teeth, or most importantly, that zipper stop, which should be right there. And they're just 2 rows of stitching. I think it's 1/4 of an inch apart, and they go from the side seam here to the folded edge here. Okay, so that is done. I said 2 lines. It's actually a little rectangle that goes around there. Okay, next thing is the back seam. So we're gonna take this side. We have 2 sides left. This long one from the right leg, and this short one, or this long one from the left leg, and those are going to go together. This point D and point M. We do have a notch here that matches. And then down here at the bottom, you have point E matching up to point C, which is right here. So your hem that very first curved hem we did, the one that I serged off when I wasn't sure, that one should match up with the edge of this piece, like that. So we are going to sew that down with our 5/8 inch seam allowance. We are going to finish it off. We're going to press it towards the center back. Okay, that is that center back seam sewn. Now, the next thing we're going to do is edge stitch this all the way down, just really close to that seam. The next thing you're going to do is work on this hem down here. This is the leg that we haven't hemmed yet. This is the very first thing we did, was this curved hem piece right here. I finished that edge. You do not need to do that, because now what we're going to do is fold this under 1/2 inch all the way around, and then fold it up evenly. I think the total hem on that is, it looks like 2 1/4 inches. And you're gonna just top stitch it down all the way around. Now, the one thing I did totally mess up on, I had some issues with this zipper. When we did this edge stitching here along this whole thing, to keep that in place, she makes a point of saying, be sure you don't catch your zipper guard when you do that. Well, of course I did catch my zipper guard, which means that my zipper is useless. So I am going to unpick that from there to there, get my zipper guard out of the way, and redo that edge stitching, or that top stitching there. And then we'll move on to our waistband. Okay, you guys will remember that I did not put darts in my skirt. So I don't have, the marks are not on my skirt where they should be, because I removed the darts. I just left them out. But when you're putting your waistband on, you will see a center back mark, and I believe there's a side seam mark also. So just match those up. If you're doing it this way, just make sure your waistband is big enough to go around the whole way around your waistband with enough of a seam allowance on both ends. So it has a little bit more of a seam allowance, but just it doesn't matter as long as you have enough seam allowance to sew it down. So we're going to sew this right sides together. The waistband on this piece, this waistband piece is interfaced. Also, you can see here where my skirt is a little bit uneven. Daisy's going crazy up there, guys. This is where my dart was. I'm just going to clip that off. It doesn't matter. And then I believe right back here at this other side, just be careful. You see, actually it came unpinned already. This is the curvy edge. So you're going to have to straighten it out a little bit to get your waistband on there. It eases in just fine. Just be aware so that you don't, so it doesn't slip out of place when you're sewing. Alright, so then we're just going to sew that on with our 5/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, I should have said before you put your waistband on, you're going to want to sew. You're going to want to press one edge under 3/8 of an inch. Once you sew this on, you're going to press that seam into the waistband and trim that down. Now, before you go any further, zip this up and make sure it doesn't look like it here, but I did just check this. Make sure that your seams are going to match here when you're done. So I need that to match right there. And it's a little difficult on this piece because when we're sewing this together, there's like an odd curve here. So just double check before you go any further, because you don't want it to be off and have your waistband look like that or like that. Okay? Alright, so once we're done with that, then you can see I actually had to move mine down another 1/4 of an inch even after I moved it down from before. So now I'm going to fold this right sides together. You're just going to make sure that you sew this seam. So let's do it from this side. So that this piece here just comes barely over the edge of the other piece. And you're going to sew a straight seam right here, and you want it to be right even with that front edge. I'm going to pin it this way. But you want it to be right even with this edge right here. Okay? We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now, if you've tried this on and everything's good, you can go ahead and clip these corners, fold this waistband to the inside, and then just stitch in the ditch to sew it down. Like I said, I'm putting a little elastic in mine, so if you want to see how I do that, come back in just a couple minutes. Okay, so if you have put darts and you're not using elastic in your waistband, then all you need to do is put your button and buttonhole in right here, and you are finished. If you're wanting to do the elastic, you can see where I've marked where I tried it on and marked where my side seams would be if I had them. You can see I had to play with it a little bit to get it right, but right from here across the back to here. And I stitched just that piece down with my stitch in the ditch. Now I'm going to open this up. I have a piece of elastic here. And I have a giant safety pin on one end, and I have another safety pin on the other end. I'm just going to feed it through that casing. Now, once I get it through this side, I'm going to pull my pin out. I'm going to safety pin this side in, just like that. Then I'm going to go try it on again, and I'm going to adjust it with this side. Make sure it's flat. So I have this side right here that I can adjust. Once I get it right, I'm going to just pin that again right there. Then I'm going to go back to the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch just right where those marks were across the waistband on both ends. And then finally I will do my stitch in the ditch from there to there, and from there to there. And then I will put on my button and my buttonhole. Alright guys, so thank you for sitting through the tutorial. I apologize because I made this in an olive green linen, like a mid-weight linen, and I really thought it was going to be light enough to see, so I apologize. I know there are a couple of points when it's a little bit dark. What I will say about this pattern is just trust the instructions. It does go together well, and it comes out really beautifully. I will also say, however, that you want to make a muslin of this. For reference, I am 5'3". I weigh 138 pounds. My bust is 38 and a half. My waist is about 34. My hips are 39. Sort of like a very short rectangle. But in this pattern, Linda says that you can successfully shorten it 3 inches the way she tells you to in the instructions. I think if you wanted to shorten it a little more, you could shorten it from the waistband, but you would have to do that after you put everything together and before you put your waistband on. If you do that, if you take the waistband down an inch or so, the waistband is going to get bigger. So you're going to definitely need to probably replace the darts, and also you may need to put some elastic in the back. On this one, you can see here that I have a lot of extra room under the waistband, and that's because I didn't use darts and I used elastic. I think that I can get rid of that by lowering the waistband a little bit, and I will do that for my next version. I also, on this one, I cut a size 16 in the waist and I tapered down to a 14 at the hips, and I think the sizing was pretty good. The waistband was still, like I said in the tutorial, still a little bit small, which is why I did not use darts and just put elastic in it. Yeah, I think the next time I do this, I will still shorten it 2 inches, but I do think that this waistband needs to be lower on me to avoid having that extra poofy business at the back waistband. That said, I am going to make another one of these. I have a black and white ikat fabric that I got from Stone Mountain and Daughter a while back. I think I showed you guys this once before. I am planning on making another one of these in that fabric. Hopefully sometime next week. I will leave, for reference, I will leave links to everything below. I will also leave my, a list of my measurements and height and everything, just so you guys have that for reference in the future. And a couple of people have asked me about that before, so I'm going to try to remember to do that in the future. But just so you know, that kind of information will all be like in the comment section. No, not in the comment section, in the show notes section. Alright guys, I think that is it for me this week. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it helpful. I'm going to be working on some tops. I'm a little lean in the tops right now, so that's what I'm going to be working on for this week. Next week, I'm hoping to have a spring inspiration video for you guys. So until then, I hope you all have a wonderful week and happy sewing.